I said, give me a hell yeah.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Sweet. Matt, we started?
Yeah, when I said 3, 2, 1, go, that was that was the sign.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to a social distancing, empty arena entertaining. Oh my God, Matt just fell over. Kicking in the balls episode of the Brothers of Discussion. We're going to talk everything from Matt falling over, wrestling's empty arena approach, Stone Cold return, an update on the Wednesday Night Wars, returns, debuts, and Matt fell over. That and so much more. Matt, where are you?
All my stuff fell. It fell.
Matt taking bumps in an empty arena. He's definitely ready for this social distancing thing.
Well, I'm all
he's ahead of
alone.
the game.
I'm already alone, and nothing's going right.
Well, then you're doing your part. You're doing a good job.
We single-handedly stopped the Hockey Podcast Network because we whined and bitched for a half hour last night.
We put down a dynamite episode that was hockey-free.
I'm pretty sure that was such a bad episode that they went, all right, I guess we're done.
I think what they said is this is such a great episode that can't be topped. So what we should do is just turn it into one weekly episode.
All right, I'll tell myself that. I don't mind.
Matt, before we dive into another hot, spicy, tasty week of pro wrestling, where can the beautiful people find everything Brothers of Discussion?
Well, I did see that all of our Google searches or the organic searches, Mike, are skyrocketing. Of course, all of those organic searches are for Matt Riddle and his feet. So something's going on again. Something happened with Matt Riddle where just because we wrote one article where I think I said, why does everybody care about Matt Riddle's bare feet? That is now one of the top trending blog pages in pro wrestling. I don't know what you perverts are up to, but you can find that blog and so many old ones. Of course, Matt might be writing soon based on what his employer told him today about getting paid. So there might be some new blogs coming, but that you can find all those at bodpodcast.com and brothersofdiscussion.com. You know what, Mike? And that's fine because that's when we're in the hardest times of our lives. That's when we improve ourselves. That's where that's where we.
When a man tell you got a job and he ain't gonna pay you and he just gives you a kick in the butt. Hot time.
Oh man, Mike, I can't wait to talk to you after this episode so I can tell you what my boss's idea is. But I'm not going to talk about it on the show. Maybe if everything goes horribly wrong, I'll bring it up. But so for you to keep in tune so you can hear that show late or hear that, yeah, you don't want to miss that show. Go to at BOD Podcast on Twitter and follow along. Go to brothers_of_discussion to keep up with all of our hot coronavirus memes. They are the walking pneumonia of wrestling. I almost said Twitter. What do I want to say? The online, yeah, the IWC, the internet wrestling community. We are definitely poisoning them with some cringy coronavirus takes. But all that, brothers_of_discussion. And that is actually a joint Instagram account with our Detroit Red Wings show, which is now, for anybody that's following along on both shows, is just going to be once a week moving forward, just on Mondays because of all of the sports getting canceled. And I guess a lot of either our show was just that bad last night, Mike, or we've got a lot of buddies on the Hockey Podcast Network that did not like having to create new content twice a week. But here we are.
Yeah, we stole the show, Shawn Michaels style. Boom!
Now, Mike, we should have a ton to talk about because for some reason we skipped last week. The first time in 121 weeks that we didn't post an episode. Folks, would you like to take a guess on what was going on? Mike, do you want to take it?
Coronavirus.
Was that it? Huh. No. I think
it wasn't me being on vacation. It was definitely that damn corona.
Was it Matt being on his honeymoon? Nope. Didn't miss an episode that week. Nope. In fact, 2 blogs went out that week. I went back and looked.
It came out of nowhere.
Here's what happened. Mike took a little vacation, and when Mike goes on vacation, the show stops. I guess that's Mike's the talent. Mike, I'm throwing you right under the bus because that is.
You know what? You can't have WrestleMania without Hulk
Jesus.
Hogan, so I'm sorry.
So, for all of you Brothers of Discussion fans that are never coming back because we missed a week, I apologize. And this was actually just after, too. We had talked about one of our biggest competitors had just signed off. We skipped a week. Mike, he's back in business. So, I know, we fucked up. We royally fucked up. But he's got to get back in business, Mike, because WrestleMania is coming up. I hope you don't feel too slight. I thought that would feel more fun, and now I just feel like it deserved. You deserve this, but now I feel with some regret bringing it up. But anyway, let's talk wrestling. I just feel like I brought down the whole show.
Matt cut a heel promo. It's all right. I accept.
I was the hero. You were the heel.
No, you were the heel. I needed a break. Even Stone Cold took a break when he had a broken neck, and much like Stone Cold, I had to take a week off, and now we're back and we're better than ever, and we're gonna double our outputs. This episode's gonna be 4 hours long. Who's ready?
I tried to hold back on the wrestling notes this week because I still feel like if we can get under an hour, we can start to post it on IGTV. There's so many good things that can come from under an hour.
All right, let's do it, bud. All right, Matt. I guess it's big news on WWE's behalf, but I think it went over like a mouse fart for the rest of us. WrestleMania has a host.
Oh,
Gronk. I didn't know he was charismatic to host for 5 minutes, let alone the first ever 2-day WrestleMania.
I picked the Gronk New Year's Eve show this year, Mike, and it was a doozy.
Ooh.
He was you said mouse fart earlier. He was drunk as a skunk, and it was not fun to watch. It wasn't even like ugly fun or like bad funny like Stone Cold's promo on Monday Night Raw. No, this was that was just bad. I don't know how you pick up a Gronk as a host when everything he's done, he's just like a big giggly bro who himself loves having fun, but not much of an orator. As I like to look at myself in that sort of light, Mr. Gronkamus is pretty far from it. But Mike, I want to focus on the news that Gronkamus delivered on Twitter.
Oh, God. What news would that be?
Mike, 2 days. This is the thing I asked for the last 2 months. But we're going to get 2 days of WrestleMania. Now, there's a lot to dissect here. Because I did ask for 2 days of WrestleMania. But that was after coming down from my high of Wrestle Kingdom and how great that was. And I said, why can't we do 2 nights of WrestleMania, and then we can have the same thing that Wrestle Kingdom did, is have a couple champions crowned, and then the next night the champions go at it. Just spreading out all that fun a little bit too. So even though I watched 12 hours of New Japan Wrestling that weekend, it was spread out over 2 days. So that was kind of the mindset, was let's save some time here. I don't know if this was the right year to do it, because we are on the cusp of canceling WrestleMania, and instead we've doubled it. like the coronavirus disease, its population has doubled over March.
I don't know if I would have done it this year, and So it's Saturday and Sunday.
Right, and we would have been watching TakeOver.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. In past years, it would have been Saturday, which is kind of like the minor league show. And then the main event, the 12-hour wrestling extravaganza, is on Sundays. So I guess Wrestle Kingdom makes more sense because it's an actual tournament. But this is going to be a lot of one-off, like, feud conclusions. So I guess I'm just confused. Because it definitely depends on, if you're wrestling Saturday, you're not as big of a deal as wrestling on Sunday, because Sunday's the big day.
Right.
So I don't know how they're going to stagger that. I don't know if they're just going to have most of the NXT stuff on Saturday anyway. Or, by default, if you wrestle Saturday, you're less of a big deal.
I mean, that's where... Like, I asked in our notes here, is there anything bad to come from this? And that's where I'm worried we're going to get... There's two possibilities. One is, like, the main event on Saturday is Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre. And then that immediately... Of course, that's the one that we want to watch, so that immediately becomes second-string main event. The other bad thing, Mike, that I thought, and this isn't along those same lines, but it's more of... Roman Reigns for 2 straight nights would be Roman beats Goldberg, Brock Lesnar retains over Drew, and then they do follow along the line of Wrestle Kingdom, and then they do Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, and we walk away from WrestleMania. Roman Reigns, double champ, Roman 2 belts. I just keep running down like that. Is my big fear right now. I would say if you are a wrestling fan and you're not huge on Roman winning all the time, because it ruins, sort of the unpredictability of the sport. Yeah, I mean that's what I'm concerned about right now. I mean, unless it was Drew.
Yeah, if Drew gets to hold both belts, that's a fun pipe dream. Would you put like Adam Cole on Saturday or Sunday?
That is a great question as well, because I think what you have to do is kind of right. You got to mix up the. I guess in my head, because they still put NXT on Shayna Baszler's name thing when she's on TV, so she's still NXT. And then you've got Rhea Ripley fighting Charlotte. So I wonder if you split up those 2 matches, and then you've got to split up some NXT tag matches, and a North American title match goes on like Saturday, and then the NXT title match goes Sunday, kind of thing. So
yeah.
So here, yeah.
I don't know if they're gonna call it like a de facto NXT show, and then you just have most of the NXT matches that night, and then you also you throw in like Charlotte versus Rhea,
Drew versus Brock.
I don't think that would be a bad way to go.
Well, yeah, it's just like what we always get mad at is the silly things, because of course I'm happy that all those matches are gonna happen, but then I have to look at it from what is the message WWE is really trying to tell us. Drew McIntyre's on Saturday night, so, but Roman Reigns is on Sunday, and then you just kind of, like, that's when we start to push away, because we're like, no, Drew should have been on Sunday. He's a real champion. Yeah, woo! But yeah, I mean, it's a stupid thing that I do as a wrestling fan, and all of us have done it at some point, but that's the bad thing to come out of this. But I think we need to adopt your point of view. Like, all of that just sounds great if we say 2 straight days of watching Rhea Ripley and Charlotte, and then Becky and Shayna, and it's just, yeah, it all sounds fantastic.
I think part of the reason they're doing this is, like, usually the TakeOver show is like, about 2.5, 3 hours. And then WrestleMania is every year it's a goddamn monster. Yeah. It's like 7, 8 hours where it's almost like 5 p.m. all the way to midnight. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the big takeaways, one of the big pluses is if they can kind of divvy up that time, like maybe do, 4 and 4 and 5 and 5 instead of doing, 2.5 and then 8, on Sunday, where your whole day is shot. So I think there's perks. I think if they being WWE, I don't think either of us would be surprised if instead of evening out the math, they just did 8 and 8, and found some way to do 16 hours of wrestling. Even as fans, I think you would just give up and you'd have to move on. Like there has to be something else going on.
Yeah, Little Women is available on demand, and Emma is coming out this weekend. Mike, we've got shit to watch. Like
that was a hot ticket. Yeah.
Sorry.
And then I want to catch up on more AEW, which has been really good. But before we dive into that, Matt, this week has been really tough. I know a lot of the major sports have they're just done. NCAA tournament canceled. In succession, NBA, NHL, and MLB all just said, nope, we're not playing. Not even golf. And I don't even think those guys are next to each other, but apparently they're close enough to cancel. Wrestling is not. It's the only thing still standing, Matt. But they're the only ones experimenting. They are doing wrestling in front of empty crowds. There's nobody in the stadium. It's kind of worked.
Yeah.
I kind of like it. I think a lot of it is there's some real, one of the facets of WWE that we talk about, but I don't know if other people talk about enough is how good the production value can be, like camera angle wise. And I think, certain people, you named a few here and I'll let you touch on those in a second. Just were really comfortable in being in front of the camera. So they know how to ham it up in front of people, but they also knew just, kind of get the acting chops out there. Still tell a story without having to rely on, that back and forth with the live audience. So it's still been entertaining this week. This, WWE's, relied a little bit more on highlight shows so far than AEW, but it's been pretty entertaining. But Matt, who did you think was doing really well with these crowdless promos?
Well, the one that really got me sitting on the edge of my seat was Edge. And then I just absolutely loved Becky's promo telling Shayna that her holding the title is like upending her entire life. I thought that was such a great story and just really helping tell like what is going on in Shayna's mind and what is, does Becky actually hold the upper hand like mentally, which is crazy. Because you'd think, the easy thing to write would be Shayna has the upper hand mentally or something like that. Kevin Owens, another great one. And then John Cena coming out and ripping, not the Fiend, but ripping Bray Wyatt to absolute shreds. His whole career, the fact that he doesn't bury guys, they bury themselves. It was just phenomenal because we all know what's going to happen at WrestleMania. But Mike, this is the thing. I also have this question to answer, but I think this is a good time to bring it up. But if these guys are good to go, right? I don't understand the narrative that's on Twitter right now that they're upset that the match card is going to play out on the WWE network, giving us new content to absorb so that we're more likely to stay home. Why is it such a bad thing that they're just going to run this thing called quote unquote WrestleMania? I mean, this got me so excited for it. Like I can't wait. This is, again, I think I said the same thing last year, but now I just absolutely can't wait to see these matches and see the stories play out. And they've proved, AEW as well, they've proved that good stories can still be told without an audience there. And I think, oh, are you okay over there? I just got something really loud.
Oh, no, I'm fine. Yeah, I don't know what that was.
Right. Well, I'm losing my train of thought here, but I think what I want to make sure I get across is that the fans they should be adding to the storylines. They should be adding to the show. And I don't know. I just don't like this idea that coronavirus is a thing and people online on Twitter are saying, just don't run WrestleMania. I think you have an opportunity here to entertain the fans, be one of the few entertainment mediums that are actually going to do a show for us, and we get to watch new wrestling. And I need to trust that they're actually going to take precautions and make sure the right people stay far away from each other. They're testing people, making sure everybody's healthy. Anybody has a symptom, they go home. Like, I'm trusting that that's the case, right? But what is so bad about this match card getting played out? Like, don't keep telling yourself, I can't believe you're going to do WrestleMania without any fans. The fans make WrestleMania. No, they're playing out a match card, and we get to watch it on TV. Right? I mean, something else is going to happen soon that will replace it. But for now, we get to watch wrestling on the network that I pay for. Again, I'm going to come back, so we're going to loop these two ideas together. The no audience wrestling thing, or at least the promo side of thing, is super working in my book. So what is the big effing deal?
I don't know.
It seems like such a crazy narrative to me.
The one thing that makes happen again. I'd just say the one thing that is kind of a big deal, or at least a big change, is I think the SmackDowns, the Raws, especially the Dynamites. It is a smaller event. I just wonder if WrestleMania is really gonna feel like WrestleMania in front of nobody. Because that's kind of what it is. It's kind of the spectacle. It's the grandiose entrances. It's the larger than life fireworks shows, and people driving out in tanks, and 50 John Cena's going up and down the ramp, and Undertaker with druids and tombstone.
So you're
like literal tombstones.
Taking the exact opposite stance that I just took.
So I'm just that's how these shows work.
No, you're acting like you didn't even hear what I just said.
No, I heard you. I'm just saying, like, I'm very curious. I'm very curious to see what they're gonna do. I'm very curious to see if, like, one thing that I think WWE is definitely, AEW and WWE are now blatantly taking notes from each other and trying to steal good ideas. And AEW this week on Dynamite, I think they did a really smart thing by putting MJF on the sideline, essentially running his own cat calling commentary, unofficial. He's not wearing a headset, but you could just hear him making fun of people, teasing them. And when these guys are, hitting their big moves, you can either hear, cheers or jeers, depending on if it's a face or a heel, from who's surrounding the ring. So it kind of feels like with WrestleMania, almost like that gauntlet match feel, where you don't want them necessarily right around the apron, but I think for WrestleMania, I might want to have some of the wrestlers like actually sitting in the crowd, MJF style. I think that would be a tremendous benefit to a 2-day WrestleMania with no crowd. Because sometimes I've seen it so many times, Matt, where, people who comment on wrestling, people who write about wrestling, sometimes they'll say, like, the in-ring chemistry was, really solid, really strong match. It's good storytelling. But, if the crowd's not engaged, it brings it down a notch. And then similarly, even if guys aren't quite hitting on all cylinders, but the crowd's engaged in the story and they're cheering, it raises the interest level in a match, just watching it on TV. So I think that's one thing that you definitely want to be, as a promoter, WWE with their biggest show of the year. I think they might want to pivot a little bit away from what they've been doing and kind of look at what AEW's success was on Wednesday with, having their big talkers essentially circling the ring.
Well, I think I will say one of the probably behind the scenes decisions of these guys not just doing constant matches is probably the safety side of things. Like, we don't need people to touch yet, I don't think they will. so it's kind of one of those things. So now AEW really moved a major piece in having some matches. So now WWE is really going to have to kick it up a notch. But is that really the thing we needed? I don't know. I will say like the promo thing so far has been great. And I think for the sake of necessity, like you give them a bone, like you go, okay, I kind of understand why we're not just having, like you said, I mean, it looks like a lumberjack match outside of AEW, but let's hope that all those guys got tested, right? I know it's really hard to get tests. I know it takes quite a while to find out if somebody is healthy or not, and it's not enough to just go, well, we don't see any symptoms. So I can understand why the WWE hasn't been, running guys to the ring, I can't think of the right word, but, just 10 guys at a time. So I think there's a responsibility side of things to that too. But I mean, you're right. But by the time WrestleMania rolls around, you can start making those decisions, or you can have a better idea of who's sick or not. You can quarantine your talent a little bit better over time. None of these guys are 60 and with pre-existing conditions. So at least the guys we're talking about, who knows who's going to show up at WrestleMania, and we got to keep Jake the Snake healthy. But it's just I think as they move forward, I think they're going to start to figure out, like I mentioned chess pieces before. I think they'll start to figure out which piece can move where, and maybe that's what it is. It's a completely different game that they're playing, and they got to figure out how these pieces work. But yeah, I think to sum this up, I think it's a win that it exists. I wish, now that we see some other major sports are having some players infected with corona, I guess at that point you kind of do have to just cancel the season, because you can't say, this team has to play shorthanded because this disease exists, and sorry, you're just screwed for the next couple of weeks till this guy's better. So you just kind of have to shut down the whole season. But yeah, I guess with wrestling, again, it's so hard to talk about because we don't know what WWE's doing behind the scenes. We don't know what AEW did behind the scenes. If these guys were just like, all right, we're all young enough, we can go to the ring and, tickle each other for 2 hours, but these are the only people we're going to see. Cody, you can't go hang out with your brother because you might kill him.
Yeah. Well, like people in the entertainment industry, I feel like it's easier for them to, get medical needs. So I guess what I'm kind of baffled by is this disease doesn't seem to just manifest out of nothing. So it kind of feels like if we have it wiped down, we have everybody tested, what are we holding back for? That's what confuses me. So, like not having as much wrestling as possible, not for example, they canceled the Andre the Giant battle royal. We don't want a whole bunch of guys in the ring. It's just smart. And it's like, is it? I mean, if they all tested negative for it and we sanitize the ring, what's the risk?
I hear you. It's one of those things where it's like my wife and I were trying to decide who should go shopping. Her as a physician, and then me as mostly a stay-at-home employee for my place of work. And it was like, all right, well, I'm probably not sick, but then I could go out and get sick, but you might be sick. So if you go out, you've already got it, but you're going to get more people sick. So it's such a... coming back to, we don't know the game we're playing yet, because it could be a guy that's setting up the ring has it, and he's coming in from town, or a security person that now they do this in an arena or something, so they have to have security at the arena, and then they all have to eat, and they have to go to a hotel and sleep, so there could be somebody at the hotel that's got it, or if they're all staying at Cody's place, somebody's got to clean Cody's mansion, so then that person could have coronavirus. So, I mean, it's just, it's one of those things where if one of those guys in the Andre the Giant got sick right before, like the day before, and now you just went from, like, I kind of, like, I respect that, like, where they're going, all right, if one of these guys gets sick the night before, at least now we're only talking 2 people are sick, instead of going, it ends up being Kane, and Kane shows up and chokeslams everybody, so he puts his hand on everybody's face to do a chokeslam, and now 30 guys are sick. Kane wins the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. He gets to take that back to Tennessee, along with the coronavirus, and then that gets spread out across the country again. So, I mean, I respect the idea.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but it just, at some point it's kind of like, well, we tested everybody. I think one funny, I don't know, maybe funny's the wrong word, but just like priority testing,
Yeah.
like first of the line, is it going to be Roman Reigns and AJ Styles because they're fighting the 2 oldest guys on the card?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if you think about it,
like I know you have a lot of black hair dye, Undertaker, but you and I both know you're like 60 years old. You are susceptible to this disease.
I feel like because Undertaker's already gotten physical, he was one of the few people to actually get physical on Monday Night Raw. Or wait, was that Raw or SmackDown? I don't know. All these days are blending together now. He gets physical with the OC, and like in my head, I'm like, all right, so they are testing the OC, they're testing the Undertaker, because otherwise these guys wouldn't be touching each other. And Undertaker's also taking a microphone, I think, from Michael Cole, and then like throwing it around the ring. It's just, he's all over the place. So something's happened where we know Undertaker's safe, or he's just so ready. Like he's like, no, I'm in character. I'm the dead man. It doesn't matter if I get corona. I'm already dead. I'm good. He's just so in character right now and so ready to take on AJ and squash him that he doesn't even care what's going on with the OC and all that coronavirus over there. I don't know. It's just, I kind of not to do anything to the Undertaker or endanger him, but I kind of hope for the latter. I kind of hope that he's just full bore into the Undertaker character.
Yeah. You reminded me of one thing, though. As far as how they've designed these shows and what we care about, what we don't, how on Raw, they, outside of these, pretty well produced segments, they also just showed Drew McIntyre's Royal Rumble victory for free. And one thing I wish had happened is that there was like coronavirus when we were kids, just so we could have watched the Royal Rumble for free.
Yeah.
That's one benefit, I guess. Let's move on. It's because I've watched that Royal Rumble already probably a dozen times because I love it. It's one of my favorite stories, and I know it's one of your favorite outcomes, at least. But God, that was a good story.
Yeah, no, I watched most of that thing on Monday Night Raw. Obviously, I mean, there's so many things to choose from content-wise, so am I going to watch that Royal Rumble for the 100th time with commercials? No. One of the other things that happened with no crowd was Steve Austin, and I already stated I thought it was hilariously bad, but, Mike, we have to at least tip the cap to Byron Saxton, who his character is to be this dorky dweeb, and even when he's cheering for wrestlers, it just sounds like he's an 8-year-old wearing a suit. And unfortunately, in going up against Stone Cold and taking a stunner, you can watch the replay. And Stone Cold even brought it up and apologized to Byron on Twitter. But yeah, that foot got dick and 2 balls, and Byron spent that entire segment on the mat because he was holding his cojones pretty tightly after Stone Cold got him. So I just, Byron is doing the job, right? His character is this dweeby guy, and now he gets kicked in the balls, and he becomes the butt of a joke. So it just, Hats off, Byron. I mean, you're doing the job. I respect the hell out of it, and I'm so sad that it just got so much worse. Like, it's just like the nerd at school who, got pantsed in front of the entire class in an assembly or something like that. Like, it just feels so bad. Like, Saxton's already got the hardest, toughest job, and it just gets so much worse. So hats off, Saxton. I hope your twig and berries are doing okay.
He's in a pretty thankless role. I don't even know if people really would have said anything or noticed if Stone Cold didn't come up and say, "Hey, I'm sorry for breaking your balls," and ice him every 20 minutes like Vince used to. I was just oof. I don't think anyone felt bad for Byron until Stone Cold said something.
I didn't notice. I just figured Stone Cold, got his leg high enough. I trust him.
Yeah.
Just like Byron trusted him. All right, do you want to talk this quick CM Punk news?
I guess is this real?
Yeah, this is him on a podcast. I thought it was kind of nice. And I thought the names he listed. At first I had to do a double take. I had to read it twice because I thought he was listing guys that he wouldn't come back for. Like he's like, well, of course they want these names, so I don't want the. But he's actually saying he would come back for Daniel Bryan, John Cena, which a lot of respect for CM Punk to make that comment, because he does know that those are some of the best moments of his career, and Rey Mysterio. It just fine, whatever. But he also threw in Will Ospreay, and I really like that Ospreay immediately came out and said, I don't know if this is clickbait, but meet me January 4th, which would be the next Wrestle Kingdom, and that would be the tits. But yeah, I just I think it's fun that CM Punk is playing this game with the fans, because I think what he's trying to do is drum up some. He's doing his own marketing right now, really. He's doing like a guerrilla campaign. So if he just keeps mentioning this, and remember he teased like the Royal Rumble that he would come back.
Yeah.
So he just keeps doing this. We're going to be chomping at the bit for some CM Punk. So I really like the way that he's playing this game. And sort of picking, just come out and say it. Who's going to bring him back to pro wrestling for the WWE? Well, these three guys. And I'm sure that list could be longer with some of the newer guys that have showed up. But I think he was trying to tell the story like, I'm not coming back to like lose to, Humberto. I'm coming back, and I need like a major story. Like Edge comes back, and he's telling like the final chapter of him and Randy Orton. Like just, masterpiece kind of stuff. So that's my thought on it.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money. If he just come out and said, I wish I could be out here with Keith Lee and Dijakovic and that Damian Priest guy. Those are three NXT up and comers. It would have kind of felt like pandering,
right?
Because he's beyond it at this point. He's at the Cena level, and for him to name those guys, I think is. I think one of those names kind of surprises you and I. Mr. Contrived Finisher himself, Rey Mysterio. But we know he's one of the hardest working dudes ever. He's into his mid 40s, and he's still more athletic than you and I were ever at our peak, and will ever be. I think we're not going to see him this year, but I think you're right on the money that he would want something at that Edge level where he gets the thunderous welcome back, and then at WrestleMania he'd be getting a high profile match. So right now I think that card is it's already sailed for him this year, but the itch might come back, and to see him against Daniel Bryan, or I think the best match easily of all those, as much as we love Daniel and man, look at that work rate. I think people would want to see a couple meaty men slapping meat, and I think they want to see Cena and Punk.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean,
that's where he got that. That's his biggest moment, that Chicago match where he was supposed to, leave town. Then he left, quote, left town storyline wise with the championship.
Right.
So,
and we talk about what Cena's doing with Bray right now, and really calling him out and really trying to drum up the excitement and the build up for when Bray finally gets over John Cena at Mania. Like, that was the original, right? That was the original John Cena's bigger than God, and he gives it up to the hometown guy, right? I mean, not just the hometown guy. I mean, it's CM Punk, but I mean, he had to take all that, right? He does that awesome entrance where he just walks to the ring. I mean, all of that was just to help CM Punk get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Just not enough credit goes to Cena, but all the credit in the world for Punk to go, if I was going to come back, I'm going to tell an amazing story, and one of three guys comes to mind, and it's John Cena. So hats off, Punk. Hats off to Byron and CM Punk, both at the same level in my book. Where are we? We've got. Do you want to talk about the ruining of this potential return?
I just, the only reason I brought it up is because I didn't really think it was being ruined. I just thought, like, I think we all just assumed this person was coming back. Go ahead and drop it, man.
Well, you're talking about, or you brought up Ronda Rousey in the notes, unless I wrote that. Now I don't even remember. Here's the thing, Mike, and I think this will be a good transition into AEW. I do not think Matt Hardy was ruined last night. I thought that was the biggest thing on Twitter, and it certainly blew up our Twitter account just by us tweeting it, and I thought it was a great moment, very memorable, and I love the social distancing impact that Matt Hardy had on his return to pro wrestling. But, Mike, here's the thing, this is what I was talking about before, and I know I was saying the audience should add to the spectacle. It shouldn't be the spectacle. And the reason being is we watch so many different TV shows that don't have an audience, and they're still great, and we love them, and we're going to cherish them forever. I'm going to watch Mad Men like once a year till the day I die. No audience in that. Just me and Don Draper. There's no reason that we shouldn't hold the WWE and AEW to that same level. There's no audience, but you guys should still tell a great story. And like we said, I think so far, so good. I love the promos that I'm seeing with no crowd. I would take that same idea and go, you know what? They're giving us a different magical moment. And that might be the perfect way for Ronda to come back, depending on however they want to tell that story. Because they can just define it themselves. And we can boo at home or we can cheer at home. But either way, they get to do what they want and just let the story pan out. And Ronda, who, if she's going to finally get a chance to grab the microphone and, not get booed the entire time, this would be it. This is where she can finally show us her acting chops. But, no, I mean, there's obviously a negative, right? I mean, that would be an amazing pop, boos and cheers. But I think it's going to be different. Life is different now, Mike. We don't have Disney World. Zoos are closed. No, go ahead.
Library's closed.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Bullshit. My hold was ready to go. No, I think that people who wrote that article at some prominent, sports websites, I think it was just, very clickbaity of them because it's not ruined at all. I think we all had a pretty good idea that Matt Hardy was coming to AEW. I think we all had a pretty good idea that Brody Lee was coming to AEW. Like Goldberg returning, Sting making a debut, a couple of years ago. It's not that it's happening. That we kind of have a pretty good idea it's going to happen. It's how you tell the story with it. So, like Goldberg returning and, spearing the crap out of Goldberg or out of Lesnar was I know. Was pretty. I don't know why that
was such a huge pop for me.
I know. Mistakes are funny.
Sorry.
Brody Lee coming out in his weird Power Ranger getup.
Sweetest.
And then
that was sweet AF.
That was such a great. I can't wait to see that character develop. He's perfect.
He has such good drop kicks, and he's like 11 feet tall. I can't wait to see him in a fucking major role in pro wrestling again. Oh my god.
Yeah, and for me, you and I guiltily mostly focused on WWE. So, on the peripheral, we're kind of aware of what's happening in other promotions, but it's mostly WWE. So, when the Elite was getting, harassed and chastised by the Inner Circle, and Matt Jackson starts saying, you know what? I made a phone call to a guy who owes me a favor. And then this fucking drone just hits the mat. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. And then they pan the camera over, and there's Matt Hardy, deleting Chris Jericho from the 104th row up there. It worked. We knew they were coming back, but now, it looks like they're using them properly. So I'm not worried about what they do with Ronda Rousey. I have a feeling she's going to be involved with Becky. She's going to be involved with Shayna. All that does is protect all those assets. So Ronda's still relevant. Shayna can be, champion somehow. And then Becky might actually lose her belt. Something she's been holding on that bad boy. My God, has it almost been a year?
Yeah. She was Becky 2 belts at WrestleMania.
Yeah, Becky 2 belts at Mania. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's irresponsible of so-called journalists to, is Ronda Rousey's return ruined? No. We all assumed she was coming back after she popped some kids out. She's doing other stuff. She's in movies. She's making babies. She's got a lot going on. So, no, it's not ruined. It's the only way you ruin it is the way you tell the story coming back. And for her to come back at WrestleMania,
so
it's about how they do it.
So it's not ruined yet.
It's
got the
as Homer Simpson once said, worst day of your life so far.
Well, I mean, we got pretty deep into AEW there, Mike, but one of the things that I wanted to announce was, and we can talk about this more when NXT runs an actual episode, but I'm just about ready to award the Wednesday Night War to AEW at this point. I just don't know if there's... I don't know what happened to NXT. I don't know who got moved. If it was just the 2 hours is too much. Were they cheating when they only had an hour-long show? Cheating in regards to not having to write as much content? Did it take away... Like they were still doing wrestling every episode like they are now. But are we getting exhausted now, right? 2 hours of NXT and even forget what's been going on the last couple of weeks. Like, especially this last episode, I totally could have done without. Like, I mean, and essentially that's what happened. I did without an NXT episode because I turned over to AEW. But I just, that's not the problem, right? What we saw what AEW did this week, and they nailed it. A non-audience show, and they've been nailing it this entire year, I feel like. So we're almost at the end of March, so it would be the entire first quarter. I think they've even won every ratings war since the new year. So I think right now the new war is going to be AEW catching up to Raw and SmackDown. I think they've done it. I think they've overcome the NXT attempt to steal some fans. Oh man, here we go.
I guess there's two things. One, you're absolutely right. AEW is dominated. It's not a war anymore. It's a slaughter. Because what I want to do is compare it to like WCW, WWF, but it's, that WCW felt like dishonest because all you were doing was leaning on Macho Man, Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, guys like that.
Right.
And it's just a different show production. Like NXT is 2 hours. There's about 3 to 4 20-minute matches, no storyline, no talking. And then they'll just do maybe like brief vignettes with like the big stars. Like, Undisputed Era will just be hanging out, like in a Scorpions music video. There's just chain link fence for some reason. They're just Adam Cole's just doing chin-ups for some
reason.
They
recorded weeks ago.
Like, you know what, boys and girls? That is undisputed. It's like, yeah, I get it. I mean, that's what you've been saying for like 2 fucking years, man. I know. And then, Velveteen Dream maybe comes out on a couch, and AEW just gets it, man. Right now they're rocking and rolling because it's funny. Like there's funny bits. Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, bring the house down. Orange Cassidy. Now you're bringing in Matt Hardy. Chris Jericho is one of the best on the mic. Like, you have that, and then you're also sprinkling in, like, really good wrestling. And where NXT has that really good wrestling, they're so, like the main roster, the Raws and SmackDowns, SmackDown with Fox, and, Raw is supposed to be the big show for WWE. It's so quick to pillage anybody who shows just a hint of being. Sorry. Yeah, they're so quick to pillage NXT. I really thought Angel Garza had a chance to just dominate an NXT, and whoop, they just sent him up to be another Latin person for Aleister Black's wife to manage. Again, one of my least favorite things. Well, their skin's kind of the same shade, so they're friends now. It's just, what? What are you doing? It's 2020. We still do this? But outside of Zelina Vega, it's stuff like that. They haven't really managed their tag team division very well. It's very top heavy. It's Undisputed Era, and who? It's not the Street Profits anymore. They're on Raw. It's who? Don't give me Oni and Danny and Lorcan and Birch, because those guys, I get it. They work strong style, but they'll never quite be 100% connection because of the way they cut their promos. They don't give those guys mic time, and when they do get it, it just doesn't win enough.
Don't forget about those broserweights. Woo!
Yeah, I mean, that's the closest thing they have to comedy, I guess, but I think they get the idea of like a Laurel and Hardy, like a straight man and a funny man, but
well, yeah, like they go, it should exist, but they haven't quite nailed the content.
So is it a little bit of an unfair comparison because like NXT, most of these guys are pretty young versus, AEW with some of the cream of the crop, mic-wise. I'm talking Jericho and Hardy now, and MJF. That's not fair. Right. That's like AEW's best versus NXT's, essentially WWE's minor leagues. It's a slaughter, man. It's far more entertaining to turn on TNT than watch, 4 20-minute matches on US.
Mike, the big move happened tonight when we wrote our notes, because the Wednesday Night Wars is gone, and I changed our show notes. So if anybody ever follows along with these, it now says WWE news, AEW news. And who knows, Mike? Maybe the AEW news, maybe we'll do that first one day. But right now, they officially we have 2 different sections on the show because I just can't take it anymore. There's no point in comparing NXT and AEW. It's just, and especially after this coronavirus thing passes, I think this is going to be the opportunity for AEW to hit those million fans in an episode, because they're so close right now. I think they're at like 950 or 960, or at least that's what they hit this week with that terrible NXT episode running. But they're so close to that, and I think once they hit that million, I think they're really gonna let it go. Like, they're really gonna go, okay, this is our show, this is our time slot, this is our channel, this is AEW. Let's just go do our stuff, because they're getting so. I mean, if it's not already happening, but I think there's a whole nother level that they can take this. But watching like Sammy Guevara sing Chris Jericho's entrance song, I could watch that forever. And I've said the last few weeks on the show how much I hate Chris Jericho. Like, I hate that song, but now I'm finally into it. Now, because of watching Sammy sing it, and now it's popped up on my Spotify, I was like, all right, I'm gonna come. It's
well,
great
I wanna say,
masturbating
too, like,
music. Oh,
oh my
it got
God.
really quiet.
Well, I feel like Angel Garza was doing a good job too, splitting his pants, and people were laughing. He was kissing old ladies in the front row. The Street Profits, my God, what a mismanagement of those guys. Thank God for Paul Heyman, because remember the Profits would do like these weird vignettes in like an empty street, or they'd be like at a barber shop, but there'd be no barber there, and they'd just be like, "We want the smoke." And it wasn't until I got to Raw that Heyman really let Montez, like, just let him off the leash, and now he's like the most charismatic guy on the whole show. And it's like, man, why didn't he utilize that in NXT? He would have been a god. He would have been the best promo guy in that whole show.
Yeah.
They never utilized him. His eyes bugging out of his head. He's doing those crazy, like, John Travolta gyrations in Grease, and then all of a sudden he's out there wrestling, doing rock impressions, and man, what an underutilized asset. And it's just,
well, that comes back to that problem of there being so many assets, too, right? So, and then what you said before of guys getting picked out of NXT, so then you're just putting more and more people onto the main roster. And what hour are they going to fit in now? Are we going to 4 hours? Because I'm not watching 4 hours. It's just. It says a lot that I would rather watch the entire 2 hours of AEW than like 1 hour of the 9 hours combined every week of WWE programming. It's pretty tough. I mean, as long as Edge keeps throwing out those great promos, I think we'll be good. But that, like that's part of the problem too, right? Like we have Edge is back, but we don't get Edge in matches. We get Edge in promos and even before the coronavirus thing, I mean, that would have been nice to see. I think. I don't know. Are we still protecting him? In which case, why is he back? Right? I mean, he's either safe, he's either healthy, or he's not. So we got to figure that part out. Where's Drew McIntyre? Right?
And it's not like WWE has. Not like exactly. I'm so glad you brought up Drew McIntyre. That's one of our favorite dudes. I love the story they're doing with Brock. I love the Edge story. I want to see Rhea triumph. I love the neck biting of Shayna Baszler.
Right,
there's a lot of meat. There's a lot of meat to the stories. It's just
this is our last thought, so we can get under an hour.
All right, let's do it under an hour. No, that's why AEW's just been so good. It doesn't quite have those monster moments, but it's just entertaining for 2 hours. It's really fun.
And with that, we're going to do it at 57 minutes. AEW is crowned champion of the Wednesday Night Wars by the Brothers of Discussion. It's official. But check everything else out, Brothers of Discussion, at BOD Podcast. We will do our best to make funny jokes and make you laugh about whatever's going to happen with WrestleMania. So that'll be going down on SmackDown. If you're listening to this on Friday on commute, or maybe you're listening to it during your quarantine. So Friday night, Gronk's going to tell us what's going on with WrestleMania. So fingers crossed on that. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. And hey, if I lose my job, maybe we'll finally go live and the blogs will go back on bodpodcast.com. So fingers crossed on that. All right, everybody.
Yeah, we're coming.
Oh, we do rank for Otis Dozovich searches as well. Just straight up Otis Dozovich. The Brothers of Discussion rank for that.
Or just Dozovich.
All right, thanks for tuning in, everybody. Have a good one.
Oh, yeah.